Morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, July 12th, 2023. It's 9 a.m., a little after because we had to bring extra chairs in for such a huge crowd, and we really appreciate that. Commission Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Eckert.
Here.
Commissioner Boatright.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Brinkman.
Here.
Commissioner Erdman.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Greg?
I would like to just take a few minutes and thank everybody for being here, big crowd, and to also, we have a special guest today, the former St. Louis District Engineer, Mr. Greg Horn's here with us today, and today is his birthday. So happy birthday, Greg, wherever you're at. He's a 3-something. I don't think he's 53, but I know he's not 73. So happy birthday, Greg. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome, everyone. I have a friendly reminder for all that we are continuing to provide a live stream of our open meetings for the public to view from their home or office. If you are speaking, please make sure you speak into a microphone and the microphone is on so the viewers may hear what is being said. We are going to start our meeting this morning with a brief safety emphasis. Ploy Son Sang Intaratip, hope I got that right, Senior Traffic Studies Specialist is going to share with us what we need to do in case of emergency today.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and Director McKenna. Thank you for the opportunity and having me here today. I know there's a lot of stuff going on, exciting, interesting agenda today, but please take a moment as I have a few safety reminders. In the event of fire, everyone will exit through these doors, either turn left or right and follow exit signs. Please walk to the parking lot until everyone is safely out and safe distance from the building and emergency response vehicles. In the case there's a small fire, there's a fire extinguisher in the front of the elevators by the main doors. I have asked Dave Herzog to retrieve and use the fire extinguisher if needed. In the event of the severe weather, everyone should stay in this room. If we must evacuate this room, please take a moment to make note of who you are sitting next to and make sure that upon your arrival to the designated safe location that your neighbor has arrived safely. If there is a medical emergency, most people in this room are certified in CPR. Sharon Thomas will call 911 and direct emergency responder to our location at St. Charles Convention Center. Tom Blair has volunteered to administer CPR, and Earl Bartley will assist them if necessary. If there is an intruder or active shooter, there are 3 basic principles to follow in the case of an active shooter. Run and escape if possible. Hide if escape is not possible. Fight as an absolute last resort. Last but not least, drive home safely. Remember to buckle up, phone down. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to recognize our special guests. First of all, we have State Representative Phil Amato, State Representative Deb Lavender, State Representative Cindy Buckeye Courtway. We have County Commissioner from Jefferson County, Dennis Gannon. St. Charles Mayor Dan Borgmeyer. And Wentzville Mayor Nick Guccione. Thank you for being here today. I need to review a few procedural items. I want to remind everyone that we have a public comment period. We are pleased to offer this to every Missourian that wants to come before the commission to address an issue of concern. If any of you that would like to address the commission, please sign up before 9:30 a.m. A reminder, you will have 5 minutes for public comment or 10 minutes per subject. Abstentions. I want to review our abstention process. There are commissioners that because of land ownership or business interests or the lawyers may represent clients that may either have some relationship to a matter coming before the commission and may have a potential or actual conflict of interest to be considered or voted upon. The commission member will indicate if he/she chooses to abstain from voting or to recuse himself from participating in discussion of an agenda item. If an agenda item is divisible by contract, call, project, or the like, a commissioner may specify that particular matter and then still vote on the remainder of the agenda item. This information is provided to the commission secretary by letter in advance of the meeting. The commission secretary will duly indicate abstentions or recusals accordingly in the minutes of the meeting. Madam Secretary, have the necessary letters been prepared? Thank you. Our first item on our agenda was an action item of consideration of minutes from our June 26th meeting. They're not fully prepared yet, so we're going to table the minutes for a future action item. The next business item is consideration of items on the consent agenda. Does anyone need to remove any item for discussion later or to abstain from an item?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve consent agenda. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. Next, we have committee and board reports. The audit committee is composed of Commissioner Brinkman, Ecker, and Boatright. Commissioner Brinkman serves as the chair. He will give the report today.
Mr. Chairman, we don't have a report. The next meeting will be in November of this year.
Thank you. Commissioner Boatright and I serve as co-chairs of the legislative committee, and Commissioner Boatright will give today's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Following the conclusion of the 2023 session of the Missouri General Assembly, Governor Parson had the task of signing into law fiscal year 2024 budget, which began on July the 1st. On June 30th, the governor announced his decision regarding the operating budget by signing the bills into law and in some cases utilizing his veto authority. I'm happy to report that many of MoDOT's original budget requests were approved by the governor with minimal change. In addition to the department's budget requests, several additional items were approved through the legislative process, including $2.8 billion in general revenues to expand and rebuild I-70 across the state from Blue Springs to Wentzville, $100 million in general revenues for low volume and minor routes, $50 million in general revenues for safety improvements at railroad crossings. All three of those items and several others, I mean, to put this in context, huge historic investment for the state of Missouri. Lots of foresight by the General Assembly, and for us to invest these excess funds that we have is such a smart thing and something that is going to pay us back for generations. So, you know, the folks in the General Assembly that are in here this morning, thank you so much for that support, and thank you so much for investing in our future. Let's see here. During the director's report, Patrick will make some comments regarding the next fiscal year's budget and the impact to the department. 1 week following his budget actions, Governor Parson completed his review on legislative proposals passed by the General Assembly. I'm happy to report that the governor signed into law two of the commission's legislative priorities for 2023. Those proposals include a hands-free measure that will prevent individuals from using electronic devices while driving a motor vehicle, and the creation of a Waterways and Ports Trust Fund for the expenditure of funds for large public capital improvements. Those proposals the governor signed will go into effect August the 28th unless noted otherwise in the legislation. Again, what a great session we had. Also in the room, I want to thank our transportation advocates that we have in the state, because without them, this wouldn't have happened too. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Boatright. Commissioner Smith serves as president of MTFC, and Commissioner Erdman and I are board members. Commissioner Smith will provide today's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's no report this month. Our next meeting is scheduled for October. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Smith, Boatright, and Erdman serve on the Emperor's Board. Today, Commissioner Boatright will provide the report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board met on June the 22nd, 2023. During the meeting, the board received information regarding Senate Bills 20 and 75, which clarify the administration of benefits and the staggered terms of elected trustees beginning in 2026. The board adopted a new funding policy and passed a fiscal year budget for 24. One item that was discussed is the property at 1913 William Street, which is the Emperor's headquarters. The possibility of renovating that space has been put on hold to look around and see if there's any alternatives in the Jefferson City area. And the next board meeting is set for September 21st, 2023. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Boatright. Commissioner Brinkman serves on the Missouri Coalition for Roadway Safety Executive Committee and will provide a report today.
As of Friday, July 7th, there have been 424 fatalities in Missouri. This is 57 less than the same time last year, 12% reduction. We're going in the right directions. Motorcyclist fatalities are up 11%. Probably has something to do with the helmet law. The month of June saw its fewest number of traffic fatality in over 5 years. This is encouraging because of the heavily traveled and often deadly summer months. With road construction and maintenance activities occurring at a record pace, we're continuing to ask the public to work with us to keep our roadways and especially our work zones safe. Buckle up, phone down, slow down, drive sober. This summer, the coalition has been working hard to engage Missourians throughout the state with the message of highway safety. Several driving clinics have already been held for new teen drivers. And later this month, there's a group called Traction. Teen Conference will take place in Cape and Kansas City. The Traction Conference is bringing together these kids from various high schools in the state to discuss traffic safety, develop an action plan for the community, implement it during the upcoming school. And the kids are a great example of everyday Missourians doing their part to make our roads safe. As part of the coalition, we have a ad campaign called Show Me Zero. And I don't see all the ads, the only ones I see are on Instagram. But anyhow, we're recently working with the team to make that a little more explicit message. 3 people will die today in Missouri. 2 of them aren't wearing seatbelts. Next Thursday, 3 more people will die. 2 of them won't have seatbelts on. Everybody go and tell 10 people that. Missourians don't know that. The fatalities that we have here, about 1,000 a year, are totally preventable, but they're just not wearing those seatbelts. But we have a video, Madam Secretary, do we have that? So those are our TMAs. That's one of about 10 that we had. And it's just amazing. It's distracted driving. It's this being on your telephone and not paying attention to what's going on. So anyhow, we're going to step it up, but it'll start in this room. Tell 10 people you know that 3 people are going to die tomorrow. 2 of them won't have seatbelts on. Mr. Chairman, that's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Brinkman. Thanks for all the great work you're doing on that topic. Next item on the agenda is the Missouri Department of Transportation Director's Report. Patrick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, everyone here today. Thanks for being here. We're really excited about what you're going to be considering in this meeting today. You're going to be presented with the final statewide transportation improvement program for fiscal year 2024 to 2028. For several months now, we've been discussing the impact on inflation on project costs. Like many areas of the economy, inflation is eating away at construction costs too. Our final contract awards for state fiscal year 23 totaled $1.85 billion. It's one of the largest fiscal year amounts we've ever had. But that was up 19.1% due to the price inflation that we experienced, almost $300 million. That has to come from future projects. We have to build the discipline into our program to acknowledge when we're in these periods of inflation, to make the appropriate adjustments so that by doing that, we can continue the program and not have big disruptions in it going forward. We also had to account for all of the projects from our 2023 to 2027 plan that had not been let yet, but had been committed to in that past plan. There's another $900 million of inflationary costs that are adjusted in this plan going forward for a total of $1.2 billion. Now that's still, even in a program with a $14 billion price tag, which is the largest in Missouri state history. That is a significant impact. It's one we have to recognize. We have to have the fiscal discipline to deal with that, and we have to do it right now. And that's basically the equivalent of an entire year's construction activity. So when we develop the STIP with our regional planning partners across the state, we have to make difficult decisions. We have to prioritize items. We typically program the STIP at 80% of our estimated financial resources over a 5-year period. We hone in on the first 3 years. We program that at 100%. Year 4 and 5 is typically programmed at about 50% of available resources. Now, thank goodness that's been the typical practice of this commission, because that helped us absorb some of this inflation, but it means that we're not bringing as many new projects into the plan as we'd like. This plan also, in order to fulfill those commitments, we've made the difficult decision to not be quite as fiscally constrained as we typically are. So we're programmed at over 90%, and we have to recognize that, and we have to deal with that. The STIP that we're presenting to you today also includes adjusting the schedule from the 2023 to 2027 plan on more than 400 projects. That's a difficult thing to do. We're very upfront about it. We have an entire report that discusses those schedule changes, but those changes are enabling us to retain all of the construction commitments we made last year and to carry them forward into this year. And it's very important. We've essentially just adjusted that schedule, typically to a different fiscal year, but we've retained that commitment. The program also includes hundreds of millions of dollars dedicated to annual asset management, and it's essential to maintaining the state's roads and bridges. These are really difficult decisions. I would love to not have to make these. I appreciate the commission's support in considering these. And again, when we consider and we look back reflectively in the decades before us, in the 90s, in the 2000s, the 2010s, we can learn from those periods of time, deal with those types of shocks to the system, and do it in a way that tries to continue to support the industry that's critical to be a partner in building and constructing and designing these projects, so that we don't have disruptions, very significant downward disruptions. And that's the process that we're going through. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the bid letting today. On June 13th, Missouri and Illinois celebrated its partnership to replace the Interstate 270 Chain of Rocks bridge over the Mississippi River in St. Louis. Commissioner Brinkman joined me in the news conference with Illinois Governor Pritzker. This is a nearly $500 million bridge construction project, and it's split between the two states. MoDOT's also improving the Riverview Boulevard interchange at the Missouri end of the bridge. Construction is scheduled for completion in late 2026. Now, the scale of this bridge, when it was designed, we were anticipating a widening of I-70. And we're so fortunate, as Commissioner Boatwright mentioned, that this is actually something that's enabled in this STIP. It's been enabled by the public process and literally 30 years of advocacy toward that end. But we didn't plan for the work that's going on right now in a vacuum. We see that on the Roachport Bridge as well. That's going to fit in nicely with the expansion projects and won't have to be reworked. That was a very significant event. Very significant for the connection, particularly the freight movements coming from Illinois into Missouri, and then traveling on to I-70 and moving on through the state. Really excited about that and appreciate very much Commissioner Brinkman being there for that event. On June 14th, MoDOT staff in Kansas City, St. Louis, and Springfield marked the 30th anniversary of our Motorist Assist program. It's called the Emergency Response. We marked the anniversary of our transportation management centers in those 3 urban areas, and what fantastic work those individuals do. We frequently get information back from citizens that are helped by those teams. Very surprised that we're there well before some of the private partners that come to their aid. And that helps keep traffic moving. It keeps people safe. Our teams were some of the leaders nationwide in this effort, and it's spread throughout the country. And our folks, we're really proud of the work that they do, and they take great pride in the work that they do as well. So thanks to commissioners who attended those events as well. MoDOT took its first step with traffic incident management efforts in 1993 with the creation of the Motorist Assist Program in Kansas City and St. Louis. Dedicated crews patrolled local interstates, assisting stranded motorists and helping to get incidents cleared as quickly and safely as possible. Over the 3 decades since this program began, the Motorist Assist Program was changed into the Emergency Response Team and expanded into Springfield. Last year, MoDOT's emergency response team included 37 operators who responded to more than 54,000 roadway incidents. That's a busy set of crews. MoDOT also created transportation management centers, starting with Springfield in 1998, St. Louis in 2000, and Kansas City in 2003. The TMCs monitor highway conditions to provide real-time traffic information that helps motorists make an informed decision on the best route to travel. It also provides details of incidents to emergency service providers to facilitate the removal of roadway incidents in a quicker fashion. Springfield's program, known as Ozark Traffic, is a partnership with the city of Springfield. St. Louis's program is known as the Gateway Guide. Kansas City's program is known as KC Scout, and it's a partnership with the Kansas Department of Transportation. Congratulations to the countless employees and partners who work to keep the traveling public safe and to keep traffic moving and efficiently every day. The governor declared the month of June as State Employee Appreciation Month. As part of that celebration, the governor celebrated 2022 State Team Members of the Month with an award and an award of distinction. MoDOT staff were recognized for the December 2022 State Team Member of the Month and for the award of distinction for public service. See some pictures up on the screen there. Central District Maintenance Worker Ed Randolph and maintenance workers Wyatt Thompson and Hunter Wisbaum received the December 2022 State Team Member of the Month Award for saving their life-saving efforts, rescuing a 3-year-old child and the child's grandmother who were being attacked by a dog. They heard the calls and the calls for help. They left their job and one of them used their belt to restrain the dog. It's a pretty amazing story, and they did a great job. We heard from medical professionals that they definitely saved the life of that 3-year-old. Heroes in action right there. Our St. Louis senior highway designer, Glenn Konersman, received the award of distinction for public service for his work to find a way to identify eligible projects and help apply for millions of dollars of federal funding. Innovation at work there. And some great work, but it's nice to have those recognition events. We really appreciate the administration's work to recognize the great work, not only of the MoDOT team, but public servants throughout the state. And every summer, MoDOT employees, we employ interns in a variety of positions in all areas of the state. The program enables college students in engineering, business, communications, environmental, and other majors. They have a chance to work alongside the professionals in that field. It's a great recruiting tool for MoDOT. It encourages future full-time employment after graduation. We had great participation, very engaged group, and for all of you that are in the private sector out there, they're all coming to work for MoDOT. Do not recruit any of these. It's I tell you what, we had a really engaged group. They're doing great work for us. They are doing real work that's needed throughout the districts. And boy, I tell you, for everyone that's concerned about the future, you're not spending enough time with the people coming through, the young people that are going to replace us all very quickly and very ably. I'm always encouraged when we have this. Our team puts a lot of effort into it, and I think our interns, whether they come to work for MoDOT or head off into other fields and other pursuits, I think it's a good stop along the way for them. They get to see public service in action, and again, very engaged, bright group, and we can't wait to see what they're all going to do in the future. We held this annual intern conference, and our commissioners were a big part of that. And boy, I tell you, we've had nothing but rave reviews. To have our commissioners come and explain their path in their life and to give advice to young people along the way. It's just such a pleasure to watch. So thank you very much. On June 30, as has been mentioned, Governor Parsons signed the state's fiscal year 2024 budget. Already mentioned, it included historic general revenue funding, including $2.8 billion for I-70, $50 million for rail safety crossing. What an amazing investment. We typically receive through a fee, a 25-cent license fee, about $1.2 million a year. And the concern over safety and incidents has led to a historic investment, $50 million to put to use to improve crossing safety for public roads throughout the state. On the state highway system, really most of that issue has already been taken care of. We've worked diligently over the years to improve safety at those crossings and to bring active controls at those. Over 95% of the state crossings are already covered, but the local public roads really needed an infusion here, and we've designed a program that we're going to be rolling out in a few weeks. We're very pleased with this program, and it's intended to move quickly to take advantage of this historic investment by the General Assembly and the governor, and we intend to move quickly. Very similar to the context with I-70. We just had our first industry meeting, and you'll hear about that a little more. We had that on Monday, just 10 days after the passage and sign after the budget came into effect on July 1st. Very well attended, a lot of interest in this. We acknowledge the high public expectation for results here, and we intend to move fast. We've got a great project team that you're going to meet, and we're excited about this. Adding that money for that intended project adds that critical third lane on each direction. This is a 200-mile interstate project. One of the most significant projects in the country is here in Missouri. It's long overdue, but boy, there's no time like the present, and our team's already moving very quickly to advance this. Of course, there are complexities with regard to the environmental work, the land, the right-of-way, utility relocation, the design. All of those things take time, but our team's on this already. We're going to be working and stressing the whole system with our private contractors and consultants that'll be aiding in this. But boy, I tell you, what an opportunity to come together and to make a real difference in the economy and the safety for the state of Missouri. We're so excited about it. And so at this time, I want to transition over a bit, and I want to invite our Deputy Director and Chief Engineer, Ed Hassinger, to come forward and to kind of bring that forward and talk about this plan.
So all that revenue that Patrick talked about, when that became clear that that was really going to happen, we have project leaders across the entire state that deliver projects. Great leadership matters in doing the work we do. And it became very clear that we needed to get on it and get somebody in place to lead the Improve I-70 program. And you talk about projects, but this is a program. We're talking about 200 miles of interstate improvement. We've got existing projects that are already underway that are in our current 5-year plan. And so coordinating the efforts with everything that's already going on, all the new revenue and the challenges of one of the biggest investments in one single initiative is going to require great leadership. And so we went about the task to see who wanted to step forward and take on that responsibility. And I can tell you, there's a lot of great folks at MoDOT that are interested, but we found the person to lead that project, and it's Eric Kopinski. Eric is right behind me here. You may know Eric here in St. Louis. You may have seen him because he has been leading another one of our major projects, the I-270 reconstruction in North County. So Eric was our design build project leader on that project. He's got a career of working on a lot of big projects in St. Louis. He's also spent some time in construction and materials, working on some statewide issues as it relates to environmental work. And Eric also spent a year as a fellow with AASHTO in Washington, D.C., learning about how the federal government and how all of those things that go on in that world happen. And that's going to be pivotal, I think, as we try to bring other resources to bear as we go forward with this project. So Eric just stepped forward and said, I want to do this. And you can't imagine the responsibility that's on his shoulders. And he takes that on in a very humble way. And he just gets to work. And that's been his kind of throughout his career and my association with him. So he's the right person to lead this. He's bringing a team together that's going to be top notch, but also understands that we have to coordinate everything we do with the other $10 billion of work that we have to accomplish in this same time frame. So big balancing act there. We're thrilled that Eric is on board, and that's going to be a great benefit to the state. The other question that you might ask is, well, 270 is not done, right? So what's going to happen to 270? Because Eric's going to step out of his role there. So I'm also pleased to announce that Neil Jansen, Neil is in the back of the room, is going to take over as our project director on 270 to finish that project. Neil's got a great history. He built the Blanchette Bridge right outside the window here. He's worked in construction in North County for most of his career. He currently is a construction materials liaison that does statewide coordination on our construction program. He's going to step out of that role for a while and take on this 270 job and bring that to fruition. So we're thrilled with these two leaders stepping up, and it just shows you what we've got here in MoDOT to take on challenges.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Is there any discussion regarding Patrick's report? Thank you, Patrick, for the report. Next item on the agenda is an action item. Patrick McKenna, Director, is presenting a recommendation for our consideration. Patrick?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, in the effort to move quickly, we're seeking the permission of the commission to delegate authority to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Office of Administration. And what we're doing here, and the reason we've got this up as an action item today, is because this lays out the transactional flow to begin the work to draw the funds that have been made available through the budget to the organization. So this, for those of you who are not familiar with the transaction, the way the General Assembly set this up and the governor signed, there are two essentially available resources to the commission to tap, not to have all upfront, but to tap to advance this project. The first is the potential for $1.4 billion of debt, so bonding authority. That would be using the commission's bonding authority, but to be paid, the debt service to be paid through general revenue. That's one part of that. That's something we're going to be talking about in future meetings. The second part is the focus of this this item right now. And that is essentially a transfer authority. There's a project fund that's been set up as of July 1st with the Treasury of the state and the Office of Administration. There's an I-70 project fund with the Office of Administration. The General Assembly wanted additional accountability and transparency with this. I think it's a very unique structure and one we fully supported going into this. The fund is established and on actions taken by the commission, bringing contracts forward for this work. We then request a transfer of this 1.4 billion that's established in that fund. Those monies will be transferred into the state road fund, and our normal and typical contracting work can proceed from there. Typically, we anticipate that we would bring contracts for commission consideration. The commission would create a contingent approval. Subsequent to that, we'll request a transfer from the Office of Administration. We're setting up those mechanisms now, and that money will be transferred in with that contingent approval. Then we'll proceed and can pay the bills from there. You'll see some of those transactions are going to be teed up today for that purpose. I'm pleased to say that the first available opportunity to consider funding specific to this construction project. We have to get working on survey, and you'll hear more of that in a minute. But in the first available opportunity, we're taking advantage of that. We're still finalizing the MOU with the Office of Administration. So we're asking for your essentially contingent approval to execute that agreement once we've worked out all the details with the Office of Administration. We anticipate that'll happen this week, and we'll proceed with these transactions should they be approved. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but this essentially sets up the transactional flow that was intended to have this additional step. Once that funding is transferred into the state road fund, we're establishing with Treasury a separate sub-account of the state road fund that will track very specifically these construction expenses and other expenses, consulting and otherwise, against the I-70 program. We'll have additional reporting made available on this. We've already asked our external partners who do our external financial audit to add additional procedures of review as part of the annual audit plan to make sure that we're carrying out these transactions exactly how they're laid out in the budget and what the intention behind them was. So I'm pleased to present that to you at this point and to ask for that ability to execute that deal and that MOU once we finalize it.
Anyone have any questions or comments for Patrick? Commissioner Erdman?
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. This is just the most recent example of innovative problem solving that I've seen since I've been on the commission. Many in the audience will be aware that the legislative process can be complicated. And when doing an unprecedented project of this size and this scope, it's going to be difficult. And what people may not know that I just want to share is that this was modeled after the experience the commission and MoDOT had with the governor's focus on bridges. And it was a very innovative way of working with the General Assembly to provide them with what they are interested in, which is accountability, and to provide MoDOT the certainty of funding that it can enter into contracts and know that projects will be completed. And as they were negotiating this, their experience on the focus on bridges was kind of their guide. And it was Brenda Morris and Director McKenna who came up with the idea of using this accounting protocol that is now enshrined in the MOU, the draft MOU, which is yet again another example of innovative problem solving. So this was a very good example of MoDOT working with the legislature to find a way to make something work, and it facilitates a historic project. And for that reason, I'm very supportive of moving forward with the MOU and would move approval.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Patrick. Next item on the agenda is an action item. Eric Kempinski, I-70 Program Coordinator, will present contracts for our consideration. Welcome, Eric, and congratulations.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Eckert, Commissioners, Director McKenna. To build on what Director McKenna just explained and the action item taken, I'm here this morning to recommend to you, the commission, for approval of the contracts listed contingent upon the transfer of these funds from OA I-70 Program Fund into the State Road Fund for the I-70 project. In addition to that, we need to be able to make sure that we can spend those funds. So I'd also request that we authorize the director, MoDOT's deputy director, chief engineer, or chief financial officer, or assistant chief engineer to authorize, to approve, and to execute those documents and to expend funds on behalf of the commission. And this will allow us to move forward with our I-70 program and spend some of those necessary funds to get us moving.
Any questions or comments for Eric? Patrick, any comment?
Well, again, I want to congratulate and thank Eric for stepping up to this. And the way that Ed Hassinger introduced him, I'd also echo essentially what he said in terms of the career and the history and being the right person for the job on our team, Ed included, Eric Schrader sitting behind him here. The guidance and the experience of this team, that's what gives me the confidence that this project is going to be successful. The construction industry, the consulting industry that we work with gives me great confidence also that that'll be the case. And and this is an example of moving quickly. This work that's being authorized, requested to be authorized here, is an example of getting out of the blocks right away. It's some critical survey work and professional services contracts. We looked at existing contracts and we're extending those. This is a quick way to get going. Eric has been on the ground at this for now, what seems probably like 6 months already, but it's really just been a couple weeks. And he's bringing exactly what he needs to bear. And I fully support this. This is the first step. We have a very aggressive plan going forward, and that's been revealed in initial discussions with industry on Monday. We're getting feedback from that. We'll be able to bring a much more robust program to you. These are what seem like minor expenses, but they're critical in getting going. So I want to thank Eric for taking this challenge on and for taking it seriously and knowing exactly how important it is to the state of Missouri, to the commission, and to the department. So thank you.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the recommendations. Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I just can't help but acknowledge that my understanding is the interstate system started in St. Charles County, where we are today.
That's correct.
And the largest of the contracts we're about to approve starts here in St. Charles County. Kind of a historic parallel.
It sure is.
Mr. Chairman, Eric, I just thank you for taking on this huge challenge. I mean, I've watched you on this 270 project. We've been over there a couple of times. You've done a great job, and it's going to be exciting to watch you the next 6-7 years as you get this thing put to bed. So thank you. I know you're going to do great.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. We've got a very strong team internally, and then we also have every single department that we're calling on to help pick up extra workload to make sure we're ready to go. And our goal is in the next couple months that we're ready to go to the public with a statewide public roadshow where we educate everybody on this is the playbook for how we will deliver that. So that is what these contracts will allow us to do, is to publicly go and kind of better educate everybody on what the playbook will be. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion?
I'm not on the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Eric, before you sneak away, I know that you kind of feel like the weight of the world's on your shoulders at this point, but I can't tell you how excited we are as a commission for you to be in this role. And to echo the comments that the director made, you're the right man for the job. The one thing that I would say is enjoy it. There's going to be times where it's going to be very stressful. There's going to be other times to where it's going to be very fun cutting ribbons at the end of the day when these things are completed. But just know that you have our support, and we're rooting for you, man. We know that you're the right man for the job. So appreciate you stepping up and doing this for us.
Thanks, Commissioner.
You bet.
Next item on the agenda is a local presentation. Tom Blair, St. Louis District Engineer, will introduce today's speaker. Tom.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Steve Ellman, presiding the county executive for St. Charles County, where we are at. He's going to come up and present to you. Now, Steve Ellman, he's been a public servant for a long time here, serving in his role as county executive in St. Charles County since 2007. He's been in all three branches of government. He's been a state representative, a senator. He's also been an associate circuit judge. He is a man in the arena. He is the best. He wants me to make sure I say the best, right? The advocate for transportation, investment transportation in St. Louis arena, in St. Louis. So I welcome Steve Ellman to speak to the commission.
Tom, thanks for agreeing to do the CPR. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Mr. Director, it's a pleasure to be here and welcome to St. Charles County. What you see is what MoDOT's helped us get for the last 100 years. I want to welcome you. Hope you enjoy your stay here. I want to issue a special thanks to your newest member, who has a long history of service to the people of Missouri, and I'm sure he will continue in that tradition as a commissioner. And welcome, Commissioner Erdman. So we're not only in St. Charles County, but you're in the, I think, the heart of Cardinal Nation, okay? And our Cardinals lately have had a hard time getting a 2-game winning streak in the National League Central. You guys have a 2-year winning streak in the General Assembly. And I don't know what to say except congratulations and thank you very, very much. But what you've achieved in the last 2 years is, quite frankly, more than we've been able to achieve in the last decade. So thanks to all those who have been working on that. And as I said, everything we have here in St. Charles, we owe it to you. And I think our neighbors in Warren County feel the same way and appreciate you as much as we do in St. Charles County. And as you have been important to the growth of this county in the future, you will continue to be important to the growth of this county, especially the western part of the county and Warren County. And I have invited a lot of folks from St. Charles and Warren County to be here today. Would they all stand and let us, yeah. These are, thank you. These folks feel as strongly as I do about how important you are to our future. And I will go ahead and start my presentation here. I first of all will say that, Tom, you have us give this stuff to you like 10 days before the meeting. And in my presentation, I was going to ask for a whole bunch of things to be done, and a couple of them have been done already in the last 10 days. So that part of my presentation will go quickly, and thank you. St. Charles County, jobs up 43% in the last decade. And you can see some of the numbers there. Our population grew 13.4%. And here's the interesting thing. If you look at this, you can see that not only have our jobs, our population has grown, but our jobs have grown even more. Okay. So generally in the past, we've talked about you helping people who live in St. Charles County get to work in St. Louis County. Now there's a lot of people going the other direction, and we have had a lot of economic development. And I don't think it would have been possible without your help over the last 10 years. You can see that St. Louis County, jobs have grown there too. Other places have had good job growth, including Warren County. Warren County's had great population growth, okay, in the last decade. Their job growth was not as impressive, but it's going to be. And you all are familiar with the project that's going on out there in Forestel, right over the county line in Warren County. And because of that, there's going to be a great deal of interest in the whole I-70 project. But here's a little history, and just why you know we think this is so important what you've accomplished in the last 2 years. Back in 2010, MoDOT saw the crisis coming, saw they weren't going to have the money to do all the things that needed to be done. And you can see the chief said, right now we have prepared MoDOT for pretty much a drought of funding for the next 5 years, and frankly, well, that 5 years became more like 15. Quote, we're not going to have money even to address economic development opportunities. Okay, that was not good news for places like St. Charles and Warren County. What we're going to focus on is maintenance, and that's pretty much what you've done, and you've done a tremendous job on that. But when Kevin Keith was hired, he kind of said the same thing. Our primary obligation is not let the system deteriorate. And you know, why did the St. Charles, I congratulate you and on what you've achieved in Jefferson City. I'm a little bit embarrassed sometimes by the fact that our delegation, not all of them, but some of them have not been as supportive as I wish they had been. Why is that? I think it's because they and their constituents looked around and saw, well, things were still happening on the MoDOT system here. We were still improving. We were still making progress. But that was possible only because of, and you see some examples of the progress there. It was because we partnered, and we had a great partnership. And how was this possible? You can see there the money that was spent. You can see the $40 million in MoDOT funds, the county transportation funds, and then other funds, including federal funds and municipal and everywhere else. But we were able to get all this done working together. And you can see that other parts of the region did not have that same partnership, and that's fine. They, as a result, I think, didn't have the population growth or the jobs growth. Again, victory on I-70. Congratulations, unbelievable achievement. And you know, as you know, people wanting to go east and west from St. Louis and St. Charles County had to deal with two bottlenecks. You got the one over the Mississippi River, which, congratulations again. You've started work on that bridge at Chain of Rocks, and we got the other one out at Wentzville. You can see here we call it the Wentzville Curve. And again, this is what we were encouraged the commission to consider awarding the first I-70 improvement project in St. Charles County, because if you don't fix the railroad problem there, if we can't do the 3 lanes under the railroad bridge, 3 lanes the rest of the way isn't gonna do any good. At the same time, where do we go from here? Because if we just fix the curve and we don't do the I-70 forward, it's all we're going to do is move that bottleneck, what, a few thousand yards west? And that's why it's so important, the money that you got to do the I-70 project. And it's so important, I think, that you begin right where the problem begins, which is at the curve, which is where it goes down to 2 lanes. And that just is not working for folks. This was one of the questions, you know, everybody was disappointed that we had a little delay here in letting the project. My question was going to be, what about what we guarantee we have that we won't have further delays by the railroad? And I found out the other day, I was informed that we have an agreement from the railroad. That's great. I was scared to death if that was going to create further delays for us. So again, congratulations to everybody responsible who was working on that. Again, unfunded needs, we have several here. I-70, I-64 interchange. We have other local projects that we will continue to ask you to consider. Route in the future, people are going to ask us, why did we stop 364? where we did. Why didn't we just extend it all the, further out? Well, that's kind of what we need to do with Highway N. And the same issues we had 30 years ago, we're going to have now, only they're further west. But this is the one that I think is most important right now. This I-70 Forestel interchange, which is 2 lanes. It's a problem already with all the truck traffic there. And when the AFG plant construction is well underway, and if you're headed back to Jefferson City, you want to pull off a little bit and look at the progress that they've been making out there. It's tremendous, and there's going to be a lot of jobs. There's going to be a lot more traffic, and the 3 lanes are going to be very much appreciated. They're going to help, but right now, getting off onto that interchange is going to be a tremendous problem as more and more people start needing to use it every day. So we asked your assistance to moving that project forward. And again, we are willing to partner to the extent that is necessary to get that done and get it done in a timely manner. A few things which certainly aren't as important, mowing and trash pickup. We go ahead and spend additional money to do trash pickup and mowing in St. Charles County. We wish there's other places in the region we wish they would kick in if they need to. It's just it's depressing when you go from the airport downtown and see all the trash on the streets. And that's where when we bring people in to sell them the region, that's where we take them first. We take them downtown, and that's what they see. And I think you ought to pay a little more attention to that. Thank you for what you're doing on the design build from the Cave Springs to Fairgrounds. That project is moving forward. And there's the next, I see that as sort of a down payment on a project that's going to take several decades. As was mentioned, we had the first project in the interstate system here on I-70. And what we're doing right now is coming back and really redoing that for the first time in a long time. This Zoombell Road outer northern road will be a good first step. We're going to do a little area where you can get off on Hawk's Nest when that is done. We're encouraging MoDOT to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side where they have that Mr. Stake property. So we hope you'll be looking at doing that. Ultimately, yeah, we would love to have the sort of rebuild project on I-70 that we see in 270. And got a quote here. And by the way, that won't be me coming back for that. I've already told everybody I'm in this job for another 3 years, 5 months, and 16 days. Okay, so don't get excited. I will not be asking for a 270 type project on I-70 in St. Charles County. But you can see there what Eric Kopinski, and by the way, congratulations to him and a great deal of confidence in him. You can see what he had to say. What was done in North County really needs to be done here eventually. So again, we wouldn't be what we are today without you. Warren County wouldn't be what it is today without you, and we are totally dependent for you on our future, and want to work with you to the extent we can. And thank you very much for this opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Anyone have any comments?
This last photo, Steve and I have a lot in common. We weren't at this groundbreaking for this interchange, but he was about 2 miles east of that interchange, and I was 2 miles west. And I remember seeing scrapers putting that roadway in. And Steve, what you've done out here is nothing short of miraculous. Your leadership and getting your road taxes out here and doing all this is all Steve Elman. So thanks for what you've done.
Any other comments? Once again, thank you, Mr. Elman. Next item is non-action item, be a local presentation, and Tom Blair will introduce the next speaker. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, Commissioner, it's my honor to bring forward Jim Wild, our Executive Director of East West Gateway Council of Governments, our municipal planning organization here in the St. Louis region. Jim, like Steve, is advocate for transportation. He's been in this arena for a long time in the St. Louis region. So Jim, the floor is yours.
Good morning. So keeping with the Cardinals theme, but I'm not going to dwell on that too much because of their record right now. So just to give you a little background, East West Gateway is the metropolitan planning organization for the St. Louis region, similar to MARC in Kansas City, OTO in Springfield. We are considered TMAs because of the size of the area. So there are other MPOs in the state, but because of our size, we've got a little different designation. About 109 municipalities between Illinois and Missouri. We represent $141 billion economy and about 42% of the state's gross domestic product. 150,000 businesses, over almost 11,000 miles of roads, 766 miles of federal interstate. My board of directors are made up of the chief elected officials. Mr. Elman, Mr. Gannon are both on my board. And Steve reminds me that it's 3 years, 5 months, and 14 days. So the split on the board is 12 in Missouri, 12 in Illinois. And so we do have 5 non-voting members. The governor of Missouri and IDOT are 2 of those 5. So I wanted to talk a little bit about relationships and partnerships and specifically the one we have with MoDOT, both at the district level and in headquarters. And also about kind of the decision-making process here in St. Louis, because we have a little different situation than what you have to deal with in the rural parts of the state. Kansas City and OTO have similar situations. It's a little different type of transportation system than what you might be dealing with in rural areas of the state. And so it requires a little bit of a different relationship with the district, with headquarters, and with the citizens in our community. So we recently wrapped up a long-range transportation plan. We have to update one every 4 years or so, and we've submitted that. And the long-range plan really focuses on 12 different things. From the transportation perspective, safe and secure, which I think we align really well with MoDOT on, choices and access for all, a seamless and efficient and reliable system, and a well-maintained system. Those 4 items do not preclude us from building a system that can address congestion or limit accessibility for anybody in the region. And in fact, focuses a fair amount on our strengths as a freight hub, not just nationally, but in the state. And working on that. We also focus on economic vitality, thriving communities and neighborhoods, vibrant downtown, and then our processes around being collaborative, equitable, innovative, and performance-based. So when the district develops their projects for inclusion in the TIP, they use these same 12 priorities to get projects into the long-range plan. Along with that, it's a very data-driven process, right? So we it's just the nature of the business today is we want to make sure we're addressing needs, and data is a very important component of doing that. So a supplemental document that we have with our long-range plan is our state of the system report, and we have several dashboards. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on any of these, but what they all do is help us understand how the system's performing and how we need to move ahead with making investments in the region. It's interesting that we're in this situation where we have unprecedented funding coming in to the state and to the region, but we're not able to do a lot of the projects because of inflation and because of other factors that we're still kind of recovering from through COVID. We totally sympathize and are trying to partner with MoDOT on getting projects implemented. I know just in the St. Louis region alone, and Patrick talked about this a little bit earlier, but in the St. Louis region alone, projects that have had to be delayed because of inflation and other things, about $364 million. And those are just the projects that are $20 million or more. So about $364 million worth of projects in the St. Louis region have to be pushed back right now. That's not good for the citizens. It makes it extra tough for our partners at MoDOT to get the projects delivered, simply because they're trying to be good stewards of the funds, good stewards of the funding. And it doesn't eliminate the need for any of those projects either. In fact, it kind of compounds the need for those projects because we are not addressing the challenges that the region has right now. So kind of the third component of that long-range plan is actually a listing of the projects. And this is going to touch a little bit on what Steve was talking about earlier too. I'm sorry, County Executive Ullman. MoDOT in the 25-year plan that we develop each year, about $11.7 billion of investments are identified over the next 25, 26 years. That's not everything we need as a region. We've got a lot of other needs, and this is where I sound a bit like a broken record. I know for those of you that have heard me speak before, talk about how we need more funding in the St. Louis region. And I'm going to say that again. We need more funding in the St. Louis region. The major projects, those that are adding capacity or doing something significant out of that 11.7 billion are about 32%. The rest of them are preserving the system, working on resiliency, replacing bridges, replacing pavements, doing those sorts of things. So I understand you have to balance statewide your investments and your projects, but I just want to give you a heads up on the St. Louis region and kind of what our challenges are right now. So I already mentioned what we've identified and what we're planning on doing, but we also have illustrative projects that we're going to have to be making investments in the next probably 10 to 15 years. One of them is a new Poplar Street Bridge, downtown St. Louis, reconstructing I-64 as it approaches that bridge, and making some investments that way. Also, Highway N, like County Executive Ullman talked about, and we have several others. But then we're also not just stopping at the projects. We have to do some planning where we're identifying what needs we have coming up. So you think it's a 25-year plan. We got plenty of time to do these things, to help address these things. The reality is we update it every 4 years. So as these planning and corridor studies come to fruition, probably half of them will end up in next year's, or in the next long-range plan that we do. So when we're looking at that $11.7 billion that we've identified in the plan, where 2/3 of it is for preserving the system or preserving assets that you already have, and the other 32 are for building new assets. As we add to the system, we're going to have to increase that preservation, or at least be conscious of the need to preserve the system in the future also. So, the curve that the county executive was talking about out in Wentzville, that I-70 work to the west of that, that all was in the last long-range plan, and it's working its way through the process and being funded. I do want to thank you for that. That's great. It's great to see that the district is able to get the railroad on board so we can start moving that project ahead. But, we're going to have other needs in the region, not just in St. Charles County, but in St. Louis City, obviously with the Poplar Street Bridge and that I-64 work we talked about. In Franklin and Jefferson counties, there's a project that had to be delayed. When I talk about that $364 million worth of projects, project on I-55 South. And that's going to end up probably growing because of the development from James Hardy that's going down there. So it's going to get added to. So we have a lot going on in the St. Louis region. Like I mentioned earlier, we have about, I think it's right here, about 43% of the state's GDP. State of Missouri's GDP is $295 billion a year. We want to see that keep growing, right? But one of the difficulties we have is, or we want to be conscious of, is being able to bring people into the region on the transportation system and making investments in as economic drivers and as employers. But so we need to be conscious of making investments in the entire St. Louis region to help drive up the states and the region's GDP. This is a slide you see every time I talk, right? So we have about 33% of the state's population, 43% of the state's GDP, 38% of the state's employment, 45, almost 46% of the state's wages and salaries are in the St. Louis region. 41% of the state's personal income is here in the St. Louis region. Yet we only get about 30% of the funding. So this is my plug to bring some more funding. Obviously, we've identified projects that we have to do through the long-range plan, projects we want to do through the long-range plan, and doing that in partnership with our partners at the district office. I think we can do that. That's right now, MoDOT's program is about $450 million a year in the St. Louis region. Average that out over the four-year program. So we're going to need to increase that. I understand it needs to be increased everywhere, but if we want to maintain the St. Louis region as the population center, as the job center, as the economic center for the state, we need to make sure we're making those investments. MoDOT is not only East West Gateway's partner, but they're also partners for the local municipalities. About 25% of the program each year that we approve, our board approves, are local projects. There has been some difficulty the last couple of years getting funding spent at the local level. We've recognized that. We've had communications with MoDOT. Obviously, MoDOT has the same issues, right? You're having to move projects back. During COVID, inflation's increased, staff has decreased, consultant staff have decreased, construction costs have increased. All of those factors, those same factors are realized by the municipalities and the counties in the region that have projects. And in fact, they're compounded because the projects at the local level have to also go through MoDOT for approval and eventual obligation of funds. So we did have a meeting with Patrick and the other leadership in May of this year, and they told us that there was some funding that needed to get committed and obligated. They gave us a number of $167 million at the beginning of May, not just for St. Louis, but for St. Louis, Kansas City, and Springfield. I'm pleased to announce that through the end of August, we will have about $151 million of that $167 million obligated. By the end of the calendar year, we should have another $13 to $15 million obligated. So I think we've made a lot of progress. I know our relationship with the staff at MoDOT is certainly great, and they have helped. One success story I'll give you is some of the CRISA money, the money that's allocated because of COVID. We had came up against a deadline on that, as did other Kansas City did, and so did Springfield. And the state of Missouri, I believe, had some of their own. In 2 days, with the help of your staff in Jeff City, in St. Louis, and then with Federal Highways, we were able to obligate a little over $20 million in 2 days. So, great things can happen when we work together. So, just the relationship we have with MoDOT, we want to make sure we maintain that. Every relationship has ups and downs, but I think we're certainly in that up cycle right now, and we want to make sure we're maintaining that. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for everything you've done for the St. Louis region. We appreciate that. We look forward to working even more closely with your leadership and your staff on moving projects ahead. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Roth?
Just want to thank you for, you mentioned the LPA and the obligation of those funds,
Yeah.
which is a big deal. And it's been a big deal for, I suppose, a couple decades at this point on getting to the point that we've gotten to today. This was a tough, in the rural setting, this was a tough thing with the BRO program a few years ago. We got a lot of feedback and, ultimately, at the end of the day, we have this funding that is not obligated. When it's not obligated, that ends up taken away from funds that could be used for the state of Missouri, whether it be with losing the federal funding or with August redistribution. So, when you circle around and talk about these LPAs, similar situation, this is something that funding's sitting out there every year that it sits there. Inflation's eating those dollars. So in addition to that, when it comes to August redistribution, when those federal funds are being redistributed to the states, if those funds aren't obligated, it puts Missouri at a position where we can't grab those funds. And that's something that I thank you for the work that you've done on that side. We've still got a ways to go. And hopefully this time next year when we're back in this region, that has been laid to rest. And when it comes to August redistribution, we're pulling in every dollar that we can. And as you pointed out, 30% of those dollars are coming to the St. Louis region. So that is a way that if we fix this problem, all at once, there's more funding available to be able to spend in the St. Louis region. So thank you for your work on that.
Yeah, absolutely. With any relationship, communication is important.
Sure.
And so if we know about that issue, about that August redistribution and the state not making that, the sooner we know about, the sooner we can pressure locals to do
Sure.
what they need to be doing. So, in terms of our relationship with MoDOT, communication's always key. It's like that with any relationship.
Yeah.
And we
I love
appreciate that.
I love the point that County Executive Elman made earlier today. The chart that you showed, sir, showing the investment and the partnership that St. Charles has made over the tough years and the work that's gotten done. That model, there's places all throughout Missouri where that same model has been implemented and it's been very successful. So and I know St. Charles is a part of East-West Gateway, any way that we can replicate that and continue to build on that type of energy. And I think that's ultimately how we've gotten to this place to where you've got a $2.8 billion investment in I-70, where you've got another $100 million investment in low volume roads throughout the state and the $50 million investment in railroad safety. That's how we get to that point.
Sure.
So let's just keep replicating that and keep making progress. And thank you for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I'll tell you, County Executive Elman on certainly more than one occasion at our board has talked about the investment St. Charles County has made in maintenance of the system. And he's encouraged it for the other board members also. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So Jim,
Yes,
I
sir.
don't know anybody that has more cats to herd than you do. Look at that map. Do you know how many cats are in there? And all of our planning partners do a wonderful job throughout the state. As you know, there are many of them, but what you've done is remarkable. And keep it up. And, you know, there's always more jobs and there's always not as much money, but you have to be satisfied. And I've been around you for 6 years, what you have accomplished with County Executive Elman and your other people on that East-West board. It's wonderful work you've done. Keep it up.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is an action item. Travis Kessner, State Design Engineer, will present bids for our consideration. Travis?
All right, Chairman Eckert, Commissioners, Director McKenna. Today I have a few separate bids to present. We have the bids from the June 16th, 2023 bid opening, in which MoDOT received 21 bids on 8 calls. And I'm also going to have recommendations for a couple of MoDOT cost share jobs let by other entities, also some border bridges that were let in partnership with Illinois. So it's a little bit of a list here that I'm going to be going through. So to move forward, we recommend that the commission awards all calls from the June 16th bid opening to the lowest responsive bidder, except for call F01 located in the St. Louis district. We recommend rejection of F01 due to excessive bids for section 102.15 of the Missouri Standard Specifications. In addition, call G10, located in the Southwest District, was an emergency project that was let and awarded by Ed Hassinger on June 16th to repair some bridges after they had been struck by a truck hauling equipment. We recommend that the commission ratify the award of that project. A couple of MoDOT cost share jobs, one from the city of Ashland, received 6 bids on May 31st for Perry Avenue. We recommend the commission concur in the city's award of this project to their lowest responsive bidder. And the city of Brookfield, JDMO Bundle, received a bid on a job on June 16, 2023 for Park Circle Drive. We're going to recommend the commission concur in that award as well. And then finally, the Illinois Department of Transportation received bids on June 16th for a couple projects along I-57 and along Route 60 for Mississippi River Bridge rehabilitation, just some minor work on those bridges. And we recommend that the commission concur in IDOT's award of those projects to the lowest responsive bidders as well. So I know it's quite a list, but those are our recommendations to you today.
Any questions or comments for Travis?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the bids.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the bids. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion approved, bids approved. Travis, you have a budget update?
Yeah. Today is the first bid awards of our state fiscal year 2024. And with that first year, the first couple months, the estimates do lag a little bit. We're kind of reflecting kind of that same percentage as we did last fiscal year, being around 19% over the program amount, which is resulting of $7.4 million over budget. As Director McKenna mentioned at the beginning during his director's report, we're recognizing that impact of inflation. So as we move forward with this state fiscal year, we're working with the districts to actually identify jobs that may have a risk of schedule move later in the year. So for this month, the Northwest and Southwest districts both took a look at future jobs that are in state fiscal year 24 that they're going to kind of keep an eye on. We're not moving the schedule of these projects yet, but if we still see some impacts of inflation in those regions, we may have to take some STIP amendment action later in the year to actually move the jobs to a later schedule, because the money has to come from somewhere. So just to highlight those for this month, for the Northwest identified a future project on Holt Route B, which is a bridge replacement. The Southwest District identify 3 smaller projects in future fiscal year 24 on Green 65, a bridge deck ceiling, Christian CC, which is a roundabout, and Barton 160 resurfacing job. So for right now, we're just the districts are looking at those jobs. We're kind of listing those as at risk of a potential schedule change in the future if the bids continue the trend of inflation that we're seeing right now. So then I'll report those every month and try to keep moving along and keep it updated. And then we'll probably take a look about once a quarter to see if you all want to move forward with the STIP amending action to actually change the schedule of those jobs. So
Thank you, Travis.
all right, thank you.
Next item is consideration of proposals for the I-55 Jefferson County Corridor Design Build Project. Ed Hassinger, Chief Engineer, and Justin Wolf, Project Director, will present proposals for our consideration. Ed?
Once again, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director, about in June of last year, you all approved moving forward with the I-55 job as a design build job. Whenever we do design build, we come to you and ask for permission to use that procurement method. We go through a detailed risk assessment of the procurement method so that we know that we're using these tools in the right way. One of the things that comes with that is kind of in the theme of today of having great leaders that lead our projects. Tom Blair in the district went about finding a leader to take on that project, and it's a person you may recognize from his days on 270. Justin Wolf is our project director on the I-55 job, and I could say he took a project that really didn't have a lot of definition back in June, only a year ago, and he's here today to present to you a recommendation for a contract award to make those improvements. So Justin.
Chairman Eckert, Commissioners, Director McKenna. So today I'm here to make the final recommendation report for the I-55 Design Build Project. So the I-55 Design Build Project is located 30 miles south of St. Louis City in Jefferson County. It's on Interstate 55, which is a major north-south route connecting the Gulf of Mexico to the Great Lakes. On the northern end of our project in Jefferson County, 55 carries over 70,000 vehicles per day. And on the southern end at 67 carries 35,000 vehicles per day. And 55 to the south carries 27,000 vehicles per day. So we have a significant amount of traffic going through this corridor, and make note of the close proximity to the Mississippi River. And with all the recent development of ports along the Mississippi, there's more and more freight going through this corridor. And we need to make sure that as we build this project, that we are preparing it for the freight of the future. So going through some of the project needs. First of all, this section of Interstate 55 has a 26% higher crash rate than other interstates. In a 5-year period, we had 8 fatalities. We had over 1,000 property damage crashes only. And those property, a lot of those are, 30% of those are rear end crashes, which are indicative of congestion in a corridor. And with some of these photos, you can see that. The photo on the upper left is as you are traveling southbound on 55. As you go to Route Z, it drops from 3 lanes southbound to 2 lanes. And it goes 2 lanes all the way to US 67. And that is a serious bottleneck in this region. On the lower half, you see photos of some of the interchanges. You see Route Z and Herculaneum. Those interchanges both have substandard bridges, the vertical clearance. So those bridges are not equipped for the freight of today or tomorrow. And also you can see on the upper right, the bridges out there right now are over 60 years old. They've reached the end of their service life. They need to be either replaced or rehabilitated. So with those needs in mind, we developed our project goals. The number one being to deliver the project within the program budget. The second goal is to maximize reliability and safety on Interstate 55 and US 67. The fourth goal is to provide a durable and maintainable transportation system compatible with regional development. The fourth goal is to construct the project safely and minimize impacts to customers. And the fifth goal is to complete the project on schedule, utilizing a diverse workforce. Our program budget is $246 million. That includes money set aside for preliminary engineering and construction engineering, as well as utilities that MoDOT is responsible for relocating. And we have allocated $750,000 for a stipend for the unsuccessful team in this pursuit. That leaves us with a $206 million fixed price, best value contract that was in the RFP. We worked with our central office group to develop our DBE goals. For construction, our DBE goals are 12% and 18% for professional services. Our workforce goals are 14.7 minority, 6.9 female, and we will have 4 on-the-job training slots with 1,000 hours each for this project. The two teams that were shortlisted to submit proposals were the Milson Weber team with Jacobs and KCI with Bartlett and West and Wilson and Company. So the proposal, the RFP that we developed had two categories. The first category was project definition, which made up safety, corridor operations, geometrics, pavement, and structures. That was 70% of the points available. 30% of the points available were devoted to maintenance of traffic. I'm going to highlight the KCI team and their proposal. Their proposal was building an additional lane on Interstate 55 in both directions from Route Z to US 67. At Interstate 55, 67, at that interchange, they're removing two of the cloverleafs, leaving it as a partial cloverleaf. They're building two roundabouts to handle smaller traffic, and they're creating two dual lane ramps to accommodate the heavier movements from southbound 55 to southbound 67 and northbound 67 to northbound 55. At Route CC and US 67, they are creating a grade separated interchange with stop controlled intersections. And throughout the corridor, they are replacing 14 bridges. They're rehabilitating 12 bridges, and they're adding one new structure. And for MOT, they are keeping two lanes open on Interstate 55 and US 67 during daytime hours. To highlight the Milson Weber team proposal, they are also building an additional lane on Interstate 55 in both directions from Route Z to US 67. At the 55-67 interchange, they are removing three of the four cloverleafs, leaving it a partial cloverleaf, but with a dual lane flyover ramp. They're using two roundabouts to accommodate the smaller volume route. And on the CC and 67 intersection, they are changing that to a grade separated interchange, utilizing two roundabouts. They are replacing 12 bridges through this corridor and rehabilitating 6 bridges through this corridor. And they are adding 4 new bridges. They have committed to keeping 2 lanes open on 55 during daytime hours. So with that, I would like to make the recommendation of the best value proposal as KCI, Bartlett and West, and Wilson and Company to show you some visualizations of their proposal. This is a good example. This is that additional lane from Route Z all the way down to 67, where right now we have a grass median. They will be building a concrete barrier separated from north and south. They'll be building 12-foot inside shoulders, and they will be building an additional concrete lane going northbound and southbound. And from this rendering, you can also see that they are rebuilding the existing inside lane. It's full depth concrete. So we will have 2 new lanes going northbound and southbound from Route Z to 67 that will be full depth concrete. The third lane will be milled and filled and along with the shoulder. So we will not have to come back to this section of 55 for the next 15 years to do any kind of pavement treatment. Their interchange at 55 and 67, again, they are taking care of the heavy ramps movements from southbound 55 to southbound 67. They are making that a dual lane ramp to accommodate that traffic. For northbound 67 to northbound 55, they've eliminated 2 of the loop ramps that eliminates the weave condition that that movement experiences. And they have that traffic bypassing around, going through a dual lane loop ramp and crossing over a new bridge, 55 bridge over 67 to continue north on 55. For their Route C67 interchange, they are lowering Route 67 down and building a new bridge for CC over that route. That is going to allow 67 to have continuous flow and not have to stop at a signalized intersection. That really eliminates the bottleneck at the south of this project. So with that, I'm here to give a recommendation of best value proposer. So we request the commission award the apparent best value proposal to KCI, Bartlett and West, and Wilson and Company. We ask to authorize the director, deputy director, chief engineer, assistant chief engineer, or their designee to negotiate and execute a contract with the apparent best value proposer, subject to approval as to form by the chief counsel's office, and approve the payment of a $750,000 stipend to the unsuccessful proposing team.
Any questions or comments for Justin?
Move to approve.
Second. Been moved and seconded to approve the proposal. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations, Justin. It's going to be a great project. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Tom Blair, St. Louis District Engineer. We're showing an update about the district.
All right, thank you, Chairman Ecker, Commission, and Director, for allowing a few moments for me to update you on the MoDOT's presence and responsibilities in the St. Louis region. You heard from some of our partners this morning, so I won't elaborate about the region and the Cardinals, but I will tell you, MoDOT is responsible for the state highways in the city of St. Louis and the 4 surrounding counties. Overall, that's 6,000 lane miles. Those lane miles are 83% in good condition today. MoDOT is responsible for 1,166 state-owned bridges in the St. Louis region, and they are in 71% good condition today. I think it's noteworthy when you heard all those numbers about economic activity and stuff, since we're a transportation organization on the vehicle miles. 26% of vehicle miles traveled in the state of Missouri on the state transportation system take place here in the St. Louis district. That's 14 billion miles a year traveled on state highways in the St. Louis district. We have a big, important project purpose here in the St. Louis region. I appreciate everything you do and our team and all of our partners do to keep everything running. I want to talk about projects. It's a big thing, and you're about to have the big STIP come to your decision here real quick. And so I have some projects listed here, but I did one before I dive into those real quick. I wanted to highlight that we have 63 active projects right now in the St. Louis district, 63. When I add up the total price tag of those contracts, it's $880 million, $880 million under contract right now. And that doesn't count decisions like you just made for $200+ million on I-55. $880 million under contract. We are currently working on designing $526 million on 78 projects. Our right-of-way team has really worked hard over the last year. They have purchased 178 different parcels or slivers of parcels, largely to make sidewalks ADA compliant. 178 parcels in the last 12 months. We also noteworthy sold 23 excess parcels. Some we brought to you over the last 12 months for approval. That brought $841,000 of additional revenue for projects in the St. Louis region. So let's talk about these projects. You've already heard so much today about all these previous directors of I-270 North project, or the current director, Neil Jansen, for stepping up. But this project you as a board, as a commission, approved over 4 years ago now. This design build project, total cost $278 million all in. We are in our final 6 months of this 4-year project. And I hope that you and everybody in the St. Louis region and beyond can come to our ribbon cutting as we get that scheduled sometime in November or December. This project we're really excited about because it didn't just replace bad bridges and bad pavement, although it is doing that, and modernized, as County Executive Elman talked about, the Interstate 270 North corridor and the outer roadway system. It also constructed a bus-only lane, and it constructed multi-use trails along the corridor. And we're also very proud of this project. I know you are all too. Governor Parson has been to this project numerous times, and he actually recognized the effort of the 270 North project, specifically Millstone Weber's efforts with their Project PAVE. Project PAVE has introduced high school students throughout the North St. Louis County area to careers in construction. And we are confident that there will be many soon-to-be adults that will be in the construction trades as a result of Project PAVE and the 270 North opportunity to build those careers. I want to move on here in St. Charles County. We have that partnership that you've been hearing about all morning on Interstate 70, right outside the door of where we're meeting right here. Last year, you approved a $62 million design build project, which has significant funds from the city of St. Charles and St. Charles County in it. This $62 million design build project on I-70 from Cave Springs to Fairgrounds is actively under construction for improving connectivity, safety, and congestion along this corridor. Our project director for this project is Nick Gibbons. He's somewhere in the room if Nick's around and wants to stand up to be recognized. Over there. Yeah. So Nick's in charge of that project, and he's with us today. Now, right down the road, just south of us from where we're meeting is, you heard earlier too about this interchange. This interchange of 364-94 Mugi, 364 known locally as Page Avenue. This interchange existed But we just cut the ribbon with our leaders like County Executive Elman and the Mayor Borgmeyer at this interchange and we made significant improvements. I think of it like 3 projects all wrapped into one. And all we've gotten so far, I think, is compliments after we cut that ribbon. But many people can't really understand what we did, but they love what the end result is. So what we did was we were able to introduce the diverging diamond. Let me go to this next slide to give you an indication. And if you have time, everybody should drive through it if they're in this area and they don't live. That's what we did. So you can't really pick it up in the picture, but we introduced a diverging diamond in the middle of the existing interchange. What did that diverging diamond do? It gave complete access to both 94 and 364 for Mugi Road, a local road. That's really important to everybody that lives in the area and actually works in this area. Now they have complete access to the state highway system. We couldn't have done that. We probably wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for our partners stepping up and saying, you need to do this and bringing money to the table. Now, while we're at it, we also added that road that's headed towards you in that picture is 94. And we added an additional lane on 94 between this interchange you see in the picture and I-70. So we added additional capacity on 94. And then the third and final project that we completed as part of that was to resurface 94. This $20 million improvement is really important to the region. And we really appreciate the opportunity to have partnered and deliver that. I mentioned bridges. Bridges are a really big deal in St. Louis. You're going to hear more about them from Brian Hartnagel in a moment about bridges. But I just want to highlight a couple of our active bridge projects. This is, you already heard about Chain of Rocks. The director mentioned that. But on the other end of the 270 loop, it's called 255 in South St. Louis County, connecting Missouri to Illinois, is the Jefferson Barrage Bridge or the Mississippi River. And we are in our second and final year to rehabilitate those bridges. This is not a simple project. This is a $47.5 million contract, and we're in our second and final year. If you want to see it, you got to get out there fast. They're going to be done in about 6 months. But this is the first major rehabilitation to the Jefferson Barracks bridges since they were originally built. And we are on schedule to complete this project at the end of this year. The project on your right is I-55. 2 of the I-55 bridges on the I-55 corridor, and the limits go from by the arch in downtown St. Louis down to that Interstate 255 corridor. There's 14 bridge rehabilitations in this project and resurfacing. This project is a 4-year project. We're in our second year of this project. And we are going to address and bring into good condition 14 really large bridges on I-55, really heavily traveled. So that's a really important project to us in the region. I want to talk about 2 projects that are more of our urban corridors full of traffic signals and sidewalks and everything. The first is McKenzie in South St. Louis County, Route P. This project, at a price tag of $7 million, is a 2-year project. We're in our second and final year of this. And if you're out there, we have converted what was non-compliant sidewalks into compliant sidewalks for everyone with disabilities. We're really proud of this project. We're getting close to finishing up. We'll resurface the road. We'll create those ADA compliant sidewalks. We'll create many opportunities for pedestrians to safely cross McKenzie Road, which those crossings didn't exist before this project. We'll rebuild a whole bunch of traffic signals as we finish this project. Similar to that project, but on a larger scale, is the St. Charles Rock Road project. This road, Route 180, if anybody wants to look at numbers, this road goes from the city limits of St. Louis city limits all the way west of the 270 big loop here in St. Louis region. 2 projects, total value $32 million. We still have over a year left in this, but you can see some pictures of some of the great work that team's already done, the contractor and team's already done out there to improve the ADA compliance. Also, we'll be resurfacing the road, rebuilding a lot of signals for that $32 million. Now, I do have one simple project I want to talk about. I brought this to your attention last time you were here in St. Louis. This is simple bridge rehabilitation projects on 47 and 30 over Interstate 44 in the St. Clair, Missouri area, part of Franklin County. Now, I brought this to your attention last year because these were the first bridges that we had where we used clear forms. You might remember we used clear forms for when the concrete was placed, so you could do a better job of ensuring that the concrete was placed and we had a quality product. You could see through the form as they placed the concrete on these bridges. But I was trying to look for a simple project, guys, and to be serious, this was one of the simplest projects we have, but even it has complexities. The city of St. Clair business owners, as we were building this project, they came to us. Former Senator Schatz came to us and said, hey, wait, you guys got to speed this up. And so we worked with the contractor, modified the contract. We were able to speed it up and lower the impacts to the local residents and business owners. And we're right at the completion line for this project. Now I want to move away from projects and I want to talk a little bit. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but the county executive mentioned litter. Litter is still a problem. I agree with him. I agree with everybody in St. Louis. Litter and roadside debris is still a problem in St. Louis. What I'll tell everybody is that we are constantly investing more and more of our limited resources into removing litter and roadside debris. So let me give you a taste of that. Just this year alone, MoDOT employees have logged 14,000 hours picking up litter from our roadways so far this year. MoDOT in St. Louis has 16 mowing contracts. Every time they mow, they have to pick up litter. Every time they pick up litter before they mow, they on average pick up 30 tons of litter. In addition, we pick up 28 tons of litter every month, in addition, through a contract that we have that only removes litter on interstates in the St. Louis region. 28 tons per month, every month through that contract. Now, the pictures you see there, the top picture, the smaller one, is our MoDOT maintenance crews and all their protective vehicles sweeping the road. Only MoDOT, until 2023, only MoDOT was equipped to sweep the road. And all that roadway debris that we see, it's not safe for anybody else to pick it up. We have to do it. So we sweep it. So we have swept 1,000 lane miles or shoulder miles in the months of March and April of this year. But I'm really proud to bring to you this time, to your attention, that we have for the first time ever awarded a contract with a private contractor who is helping us sweep. And they are doing the sweeping operation on Interstate 70 from Warren County all the way down to the Arch. Every time they sweep on I-70, they are collecting 100 tons of debris. 100 tons of debris every time they sweep that stretch of I-70. And when they come back a month later and do it again, it's still another 100 tons. It's a big issue. We're continually investing resources, and we will. We know it's very important to everyone to keep our roadways and roadsides clean. Now, while we do all these projects and all the sweeping and picking up litter, we have to protect ourselves and our customers. And unfortunately, our customers have still continued to run into us. This chart shows you that the graphic there is statewide truck-mounted attenuator strikes or crashes. That's where customers run into us, into our protective truck-mounted attenuators. And those vehicles are out there protecting our team and our contracted team members that are out there on the road, fixing potholes, picking up trash, doing all this very important work. In 2022, 16 times we were struck in the St. Louis region. Our employees were struck by motorists. When I put the slide together 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had been struck 13 times already this year. When I asked for my team to get an updated number yesterday, they told me the number had already climbed to 16 since I put the slide together. As I was sitting here this morning, I got an email from my team that one of our trucks was struck this morning on I-44 in the city of St. Louis. So now we're up to 17 in 2023. This is serious business. People can get hurt. And so I ask everyone to please do the buckle up, phone down, but really pay attention. We want every motorist out there, no matter what they're driving, to be able to get to their destination safely. And we definitely want all of our employees and our contracted team members to get to go home safe. So please do your part and help us all get home safely. Back to trash real quick. We don't all do it by ourselves and through contractors. We have a lot of volunteers in St. Louis. We have some really important Adopt a Highway groups, but these pictures here come from some of our partners. These groups are organized by some of our local elected officials, too many to mention, some of our state elected officials, too many to mention, and Bank of America and radio personality here in St. Louis, Charlie Brennan. They organize a ton of these events. Now, because we have to keep everybody safe, we have to support them because you can't just safely pick up litter. We don't want anybody getting hurt. So we supported these events. Every one of these events, we had numerous ones of these throughout the spring. Every one, I would say, if I average them, they're 2 to 4 hour events, and the groups are big, and they pick up 250 bags of litter on average, each group. So they're very important to us, these community outreach efforts, but we do have to work really hard to keep everyone safe. Now, when you were in Springfield just a month ago, you heard about these permits. So our district engineer in Springfield mentioned permits. So it got me thinking, I needed to tell you all about permits. So permits, in our terminology, that's when we as an agency give permission for somebody to make modifications or improvements to the state transportation system. In the St. Louis region, we are on a faster pace than normal. So these are beyond our projects that you all fund. These are funded by other sources, and we're giving them permission to put in a driveway for a house, or to put in a driveway for a business, or maybe to rebuild or build a whole entire new interchange for a really big business. So we're on pace for 1,600 permits in the St. Louis region in 2023. Now, like that Bass Pro Shops there, which is a new Bass Pro Shops in St. Louis, that's a pretty complex one. So we go through many, many meetings back and forth with traffic engineers, with local jurisdiction on land use issues. Those are more the development reviews. We've already had this year 116 very detailed development reviews that are underway, and those have resulted in 16 access justification requests to federal highway. So that's where we're modifying access to the interstate as a result of others that want to make changes to the state transportation system. So this is bonus work that we all get to do, but it's very important work. I want to shout out to the 30th anniversary of the emergency response program statewide, like the director did in his report, but these are pictures from our St. Louis event that we had and our partners in the lower picture. I'm really proud this program started when it started in St. Louis 30 years ago. We had 8 operators. We covered 3 interstate routes only in the morning and in the evening. And now we're to 20 operators, 3 supervisors. We cover 225 miles. We do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. On an average day, we are assisting, making 71 assists. 71 assists. And as the director said, these men and women that serve in this role are heroes when they show up. They play a really critical role in every one of us getting home safely and keeping traffic moving. And then finally, my last slide, and I'll be quiet. Recruitment and community outreach is a big deal in a community of 2 million people. Every week, in fact, last night, the MoDOT team here in St. Louis had 2 public meetings that we were at. But every week we have at least one public meeting that we host about one of these projects on the STIP, and usually at least one public meeting that we're going to that our partners host about their projects that we're engaged in. We do a lot of community outreach here in the St. Louis region. And then the pictures here are also, we have a lot of partners. I hope that there's a lot of people out there that have the passion that my team has to take care of and operate the state transportation system. It's a really big purpose. And we work really hard to find those next career employees. And we're out there constantly in recruitment efforts to find who they are. So I thank you very much, Chairman, for the opportunity to share some of the St. Louis story with you.
Thank you, Tom. Anybody have any questions or comments for Tom?
Yeah, Tom, great presentation. For everyone's edification, we started this about a year or so ago, having the regions give an update on what they're doing. I think it helps the commission and it helps the people in the audience too, to really see what's going on out there. And I can tell you as a new member on the commission, I think we all get here, we don't realize what we've been able to do with not much money. And now we're getting some money. So we're going to expect more.
Yeah, it's an exciting time.
It's a great crew, a lot of professionals in the MoDOT, all their engineers, accountants, and communication people. Great job.
Anybody else? Thanks, Tom. Before I move on to the next agenda item, brought to my attention, and I should have done this earlier, could we have the winning team of KCI, Bartlett West, and Wilson stand up and be recognized for winning that design build project? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a non-action item. Brian Hartnagel, State Bridge Engineer, is going to provide an update on the condition of state bridges and the bridge division.
Chairman Ecker, Commissioners, Director McKenna, Madam Secretary, thank you for this opportunity to talk about the Bridge Division and the condition of the state bridges. So every year in March, we submit to the Federal Highway Administration the National Bridge Inventory. We call it the NBI. But anyhow, on our state system this year in March, we had 10,424 bridges on the state system. That's 37 more than last year. You go, well, how come there's so many more? When you guys award a project for a new bridge, that immediately gets added to the National Bridge Inventory. So there may be 2 bridges in one location until the old one is removed or so on. So if we look at what we submitted in the National Bridge Inventory, 804 of those were poor condition bridges. We are making progress. If you look over the last years, from 2018 to 2022, we went from over 900 down to 804. And so we've decreased by 19. But on average of the last 5 years, we add 102 every year. So to get a decrease of 19, you have to take 121 off of the poor condition list. So we are making progress. Our asset management goal is to keep this below 900. We show you this graph every year, the distribution by decade, and you notice the tallest bar there is 1960 through 1969. It's 2,143 bridges or something like that. 2143. Yes, about 52% of our bridges are older than their intended useful life of 50 years. But if you look at that bar, 1960 to 1969 and earlier, we did remove 57 from the list from last year. So we're making progress on replacing those older ones as well. The next topic here is weight restricted bridges. So these are bridges that we have a sign on there that says load limit 20 tons or something like that. We're restricting commerce or economic activity because of the condition or the load carrying capacity of the bridges. And so 935. If you look at the last 6 years, we are making progress on this. However, I will add a word of caution. We have updated our load rating policy in coordination with a Federal Highway Administration requirement to account for special hauling vehicles that carry up to 7 axles. So dump trucks that have 7 axles, and there are a couple emergency vehicles or fire trucks that we're not accounting for in our rating policy that dates back to the early 90s. So we updated our rating policy. Now we have the daunting task of rating 24,500 bridges, all 10,400 state and about 14,000 local public agency bridges. So we do anticipate this number to increase weight restricted bridges. If we look at the Venn diagram of poor condition bridges and weight restricted bridges, the union of that is 313 are on both lists, poor condition and weight restricted. We classify bridges into 2 categories, major bridges and typical bridges. Typical bridges are those under 1,000 feet long, and if you look at the number, that's about 10,213 on the state system. I show a couple pictures here. On the right-hand side, we see Route 51 over the Castor River in Bollinger County. This was a Focus on Bridge project for the governor's Focus on Bridge that we've heard about earlier. And that has been a good program to reduce our poor condition bridges as well. Major bridges are over 1,000 feet long, and we have 211 on the system. And on the left-hand picture there, I show the Casey Icon Bridge in Kansas City, which is a major bridge. And on the far left of the picture is the south approach to that. That is also a major bridge as well. In the Casey Icon Bridge, I'll talk about it a little bit later when we talk about the AASHTO conference we hosted in Kansas City. So there are 211 major bridges, and if you 54 of those span the Missouri or Mississippi rivers. You see the concentration in the urban areas and also the lake areas of the state. And if you remember from last year, we only had 204 major bridges. So you go, where did 7 of them come from? So we added 2 at Roachport. So right now, Roachport has 3 bridges on the system. We added 4 at the Buck O'Neill project, and we added 1 in Taney County on Route 86 over the Long Creek arm of Table Rock Lake. Now, the Roachport Bridge, there's no traffic on the old bridge right now, and so that will come off in the next year's National Bridge Inventory submittal. So funded major bridge replacements. Down there in the bottom center of the slide is the chain of rocks. We heard from the director and the public event there at the Chain of Rocks Bridge. Our money to pay Illinois back on that almost $500 million project is in the FY24. So that's why it's included in this. We owe Illinois about $195 million of that 490 something million. The next one is Route 291 over the Missouri River in Kansas City, the Liberty Bend. And so the picture on the right, there's two bridges there. The older one is the bridge on the right, and that one is the one that is scheduled for replacement. And that one is, whoops, I'm on the wrong page here. That one is approximately $78 million. Route 29, north and south viaduct approaches to the KC Icon Bridge in Kansas City. They're currently in fiscal year 28. On the major bridge slide, I showed you the south approach. The north approach is there as well. Each of those are, well, the total sum is about $138 million in FY28. And then lastly, the Route 92 Centennial Bridge over Missouri River in Kansas City. Kansas is the lead state for this project, and our repayment to Kansas is in 2028. It's approximately $75 million, and we have about $16 million worth of roadway work on our side of the state, or on our side, our state, to connect into that Route 92. So what do we have that's not funded as far as major bridges are concerned? So in St. Joseph in the Northwest District, the Route 229, that's the double decker in St. Joseph. The local city councils and all have, I think, come to an agreement to remove those. And so we're going to put a parkway, and there's some minor bridges that will go over some city streets and things there. But that's about $60 million. And that's currently in 2028 is where we'd like to do that. On your far left side there is Route 160 over Bull Shoals Lake in the Southwest District. That's what we call the Theodosia Bridge. And we got about, put my glasses on here, 58 million. Or no, that one's 80 million for the Theodosia Bridge. In the center, down there, Route 24 over the Mississippi River in Northeast. Illinois is the lead state for this one. This is Quincy Memorial. And our share of that is estimated to be about $51 million. And then finally, Route 136 over the Missouri River. We share this bridge with Nebraska. We call this the Brownville Bridge, and our share is about $53 million, and we're hoping to get that in 2031. So on to the Bridge Division update. So what does the Bridge Division do for the organization? Well, we supply bridge plans for all 7 districts. They're our customers, so that's the project delivery part. And then we also have the bridge management part. And so the bridge management part does inspection, the inventory, as I already said, load rating and permitting, and they also deal with local public agencies. As I mentioned, we have 14,100 local public agency structures. The top picture there is a liquid oxygen tank that's being transported to SpaceX. It went on Route 240 and 65. This is in Marshall, Missouri. And this load was about 600,000 pounds. And so the load rating and permitting, we work with our motor carriers people to process about 200 super load permits. A super load is something that's over 160,000 pounds. 200 permits per month. Okay. And that's our bridge management section in addition to the other responsibilities that I'll talk about in a moment. Project delivery, we have preliminary and hydraulic design, plans production, review, development, liaisons, which basically are working with our border states, and also they hire consultants to do work for us, and then fabrication inspection. So steel bridge inspection that takes place throughout the country is under the project delivery. I show these 2 pictures in the center of the bottom there. These are on Route 30 in Franklin County. And you notice that there's some flash flooding going on. They're dated in 2015, and there's some roadway overtopping. So our preliminary and hydraulics people analyze the watershed, decide how much water is going to go under the bridge, size the bridge so that we can prevent this roadway overtopping, and turn around, don't drown when you encounter a flooded road. So this project is in the May 2024 letting to do some work on this Route 30 in the Franklin County. And I show the cover of the AASHTO LRFD bridge design specifications there for a couple reasons. That's what our development section does. They take the AASHTO codes and turn them into engineering policy. And I also show this because the top photo on that is the Stan Musial Veterans Memorial Bridge. And that photo was taken by the late Kathy Morrison. So we acknowledge her contribution to that. But also, we hosted the AASHTO Committee on Bridges and Structures, the sausage making of the AASHTO Committee that makes that guide. We hosted that meeting in May 21st through 25th of this year in Kansas City. And I'll get to that in just a moment. So back to the bridge management section, you might have heard in May of 2021, Interstate 40 bridge, the Hernando de Soto that connects West Memphis, Arkansas to Memphis, Tennessee. There was a crack discovered, and that crack was the result of a butt weld of T1 steel. So T1 is 100 KSI steel. It was used in the 60s to 90s. We didn't have proper weld procedures to prevent cracking, hydrogen embrittlement, and so on. And so the Federal Highway Administration released a memo and says, thou shalt inspect all butt welds of T1 steel. We have 5 bridges on our inventory that have that steel. We hired a consultant to do this work because it's kind of beyond the scope of what we're able to do. And so this is the Daniel Boone Bridge here, Interstate 64, connecting St. Louis County to St. Charles County. This is the westbound direction. And you'll notice top left, the inspector using phased array ultrasound. They discovered an indication in this location. The left center is they are core drilling that out. The result is that hole in the member there. So they've core drilled that out. They sent it to their lab in Chicago. We'll analyze that. So this was the Daniel Boone Bridge, the older Blanchette structure. They're doing inspections on that right now, the same type of stuff. Caruthersville, I-155 at Caruthersville has several hundred welds that need to be inspected. And then the double-decker Poplar Street approach, approximately over Union Station area. Some of the plate girders there have T1 steel butt welds that need to be inspected. So we have 5 bridges that we're responsible for. As part of inspection, we also have what we call the dive team. And so every year as part of the safety and checkout equipment and so on, in last week of May, usually they go to Roaring River State Park. The dive team consists of bridge people. In the center of the picture there in the pool, we have Caleb Knurr. He's a design division employee. We have people on multimodal team that do diving. And so we have Terry Shuneman, Caleb Knurr, and Adam Zintz in the pool. And after they do their checkout in the swimming pool, then they go to Beaver Lake, Arkansas, which has a dive park. There's all kinds of stuff underwater for people to go explore. And so in the picture on the right there, you see Terry Shuneman with Dustin Pierce. And Dustin Pierce has his mask off and he's breathing secondary air. So they're doing all their safety checks, checking out their equipment, preparing for the summer dive season, which they're underway in full swing right now doing that. All right, so program delivery, as I mentioned, we do preliminary design for new bridges and rehabilitations, final design plans production, review, job special provisions, estimates, working day schedules. Our consultant or liaisons do consultant procurement and manage consultant contracts. And then, as I mentioned, we have fabrication inspectors that, Roachport was fabricated in Bowling Green, Kentucky, at STIP Bridge. Some of the project for Buck O'Neill is being fabricated in Wisconsin. So we have people that travel throughout the country. If you look, FY23, our internal production did about 67 million, whereas in FY22 it's just a little over 52 million, or about 52 million. Don't ask me if that was inflationary, same amount of work, inflationary. I'd like to say we did 16 bridges versus 11. So I think it was a little bit of increase in production. We have a limited staff and we still have a little bit of vacancies. We thank the commission for the act on the market adjustment that's been helping us recruit new employees. You're going to act on the drafts. I call it the draft STIP right now. The next item is to act on the STIP. If we look in the draft STIP for 2024 to 2028, 1,150 bridges, about 1.8 billion, 1.1 billion on typical, and almost 700 million on the major bridges. The graph on the right there is almost similar to what it was last year, about 55% replacement, 30% rehab, 5% redex, and 10% preventative maintenance. I want to highlight a couple things that happened. We also provide support for bridge construction, and we have one employee on the Roachport team as well. So this was these pictures taken on February 20th of 2023. This is Roachport Bridge, I-70. This is the main span lift. On the right there, you see each end had 10 bottle jacks to lift those 5 girders, and they stroked 10 inches at a time. So they lifted that whole segment 10 inches at a time. The picture on the left there is taken from the vantage point of one of the spur dikes that I was sitting there watching that day. And interesting process to watch that go on. So the westbound traffic was put on this new bridge on June 16th. And then on July 6th, the eastbound traffic was moved to this bridge. So the old truss bridge you see on the right there is now having no vehicle traffic other than construction traffic. They are already in the process of dismantling that deck and so on. We get lots of questions on when they're going to blow it up so we can all be there to watch it, right? The governor's Focus on Bridge program, we heard about that a little bit this morning. As of the March commission meeting this year, all of the 250 have been awarded. I'm happy to report that since I had to turn this presentation in, 3 more have been open to traffic, so we can say that 235 are complete now. And I show a couple pictures here. The one on the left there, Commissioner Boatwright knows that one well. This is Route EE over some drainage ditches. There's 2 of 4 drainage ditches there, all in a stretch. We realigned the roadway and put these are new bridges under construction. And the one on the right there is Route W over the Black River in Butler County. So a great program, and we've already heard the virtues of that described earlier and how that's helping us reduce poor condition bridges. We also like to collaborate with our consultant partners and our contractor partners. And after a hiatus due to the COVID, we're getting back into doing the every other year Missouri Bridge Conference. This year we hosted it on October 19th, 2022 at the Stony Creek Inn in Columbia. We had 6 vendors. The space was kind of tight there. 6 vendors set up booths there on the right. And we had 172 attendees to this conference. Day-long conference that presentations from construction and bridge-related topics, research from the university as well. As I mentioned, we hosted the AASHTO Committee on Bridges and Structures, May 21 through 25 in Kansas City at the beautiful Lowe's Hotel. The top left there is the stylized logo developed by Mrs. Seabaugh of our communications staff. And on the left is some of the 25 volunteers we had to host this meeting. All 50 states are invited, 47 participated, DC and Puerto Rico. And on the right side there, you see Director McKenna giving the welcoming address to the general session of the Committee on Bridges and Structures. So this is where the voting takes place of all these codes and developing the LRFD bridge specifications. So with your permission, I would like to show a 90-second video that Mr. Bushko created of our communications. We showed this at our host state night at the AASHTO Committee on Bridges and Structures. So if I may, I'll just start the video. And with that, I'd happily address any questions you may have.
Thank you, Brian. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I've got a comment, Mr. Chairman. Brian, thank you and your team. That video kind of got me fired up. You know, as a nerdy engineer, getting to see steel and concrete going into place is pretty exciting. But you know, your team's got a huge job on their plate to make it around to all the bridges we have in the state, and just the professionalism and the work that you do is very much appreciated. It's great to see that us being as close to that 800 number rather than being so having that decline on our poor condition bridges is certainly exciting. So again, just appreciate everything that you do.
Yeah, thank you. As I mentioned, we had 100 a year, so you got to take, in order to decrease that, you got to take off more
Sure.
than 100. So
It's exciting.
Thank you.
Making
Any
progress.
Patrick?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Hartnagel. I just want to say, you know, to highlight that point again, if we look about, you know, transformation and the progress that we're making in the state, I think it really is heightened when we look at the bridge condition. You know, not so long ago, we were projecting that we'd be closing between 150 and 250 bridges a year in this state. And talk about balkanizing the entire state. You're literally disconnecting communities, doing the opposite of what a bridge should do. The financial resources associated with the bridge work are the most significant challenge that we face, that we continue to face. But the focus on this area, the work of Brian and his team to turn that trend in the positive direction, that's been extraordinary. Well over 1,000 bridges in just a few short years have been repaired or replaced. And that's the most significant turnaround, I think. That's what brought us to where we are, investing in infrastructure. That Roachport Bridge and the Focus on Bridge program with the governor, that was the inflection point. That's the turning point where we went from despair to repair. And that really is the key. And Brian and his team, you know, Brian's the 6th state bridge engineer that we've had in our 100-year history. Can you imagine that? Directors come and go almost with the wind. But I tell you what, thank goodness that we have the caliber that we have in Dr. Hartnagel and his team. They're keeping us safe and they're making progress. So thank you.
I thank you. And that's kind of my why right there. The road can turn to gravel, but if the bridge turns to gravel, you got nothing, right? So
That's right.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian. Next item on the agenda is Eric Curtis is going to, Transportation Planning Director is going to present the 24-28 STIP for our consideration. Eric?
Good morning. Eric Curdy here, as you said, Transportation Planning Director. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director McKenna, Madam Secretary. I'm happy to present the final STIP. Some of this you've heard. 13.91 billion, coming off at about 4.6 billion an inch, if it's 3 inches thick. So much of this you've heard before, so from last month's on our draft, but I'm going to highlight some changes that we had between the draft and final today. STIP, it's, you know, we have to look at how much money we have to invest in the STIP. We use a good financial planning model, our forecast, along with our operating budget to develop what our overall program will be. That's kind of the first step for deciding what goes into the STIP. The backbone of decision-making, this is the key to the development of the STIP, and a little bit later I'll share why it's so important as it relates to comments that we receive on the STIP. Missouri is blanketed by metropolitan planning organizations and regional planning commissions made up of locally elected officials that help us decide what goes in the STIP, what's their priority. We found a long time ago it's best to talk to Missourians. They know best. Transportation is local. And 9 times out of 10, we're on the same page right from where it goes. So this is a key component in development of the STIP, is to work with the locally elected officials. Contractor awards, previously we brought the forecast at about 1.5 billion a year. We're averaging in this STIP 2.1 billion a year in contractor awards. You know, the system's replacement value is probably starting to push about $200 billion. So we're a little bit over 1% of the replacement value on the system a year. It's just massive asset that we're tasked with maintaining. So contractor awards at 2.1 billion is a great thing to see. Asset management, Missourians very common sense oriented. Talk about maintaining what we have first prior to expanding the system. And this STIP remains focused on asset management. A little bit about the system. You're well aware we've got about 34,000 miles of roads, about 10,400 bridges. There's 5,500 miles of roads in what we call majors. They carry about, new numbers for you, they carry about 77% of all travel and represent 26% of the total system mileage. Also on this schematic or this slide is minor roads. They account for about 46% of the total system and carry about 22% of the traffic. And this typically doesn't address low volume roads, but we've got quite a bit of investment in them as well. And this is the low volume system. This year's totals are about 10,700 miles of road, or 28% of the system, carrying about 2% of the traffic on the state system. So the first 3 years, as Patrick mentioned earlier, are fully programmed. So this focuses just on those first 3 years. And you can see it's a comparison of last year's STIP to this year, a little bit more into asset management from 74 to 77%, capital improvement diminished. Then we've got other jobs, the pavement jobs, Garvey, odd little things, ITS. But you can see that the trend is still continuing, and asset management is the focus of this STIP. Highlights on the first 3 years of how much we'll be doing as on pavements and on bridges that you can kind of see as it looks to what it looked like last year compared to this year. Still a massive investment, 19,000 miles of road being touched, 815 bridges. Key to all this, steady funding distribution, predictable funding amounts. A lot of states don't have this. Your policy related to funding distribution is essential to get predictability about what investments are coming to each region of the state. Your formula for year 24 distributes $1.5 billion. The first bucket that it hits, of course, our number one priority, safety, at $58 million. Asset management encompasses all those really key priorities of maintaining our system, keeping it together at $829 million. And then whatever's left falls into the final bucket for expansion type projects at $621 million for FY24. Patrick mentioned inflation. It's a mean little dude. $1.2 billion of inflation impacts in the 24 to 28 STIP. Basically $900 million from projects that were in the 23 to 27 that are also in the 24. $102 million from program versus award adjustments that were done in FY22. $236 million is where we're estimating about for 23 awards. Could be as high as $300 million. Schedule adjustments on 54 projects that went from, that were to be done in 23 that we moved into 24. Totaled $538 million for those project totals. And then schedule adjustments for 362 projects within the 24 to 28 horizon. Those projects totaled $1.45 billion. Quite a significant impact, as Patrick mentioned. That's, you know, back when I started it, around the creation of the wheel, 1.2 billion was a really banner year of construction program. I mean, it wasn't even that high sometimes. So, all right. So getting down to the changes in this from the draft to the final, we have 15 projects deleted, and they're really, this is a rarity to have a project deleted. And it's really either the job has been split into two jobs. The public said, hey, we don't want that anymore. Or it was the work was incorporated in another job. So while they're technical deletions, they're still either being addressed in other jobs, or folks were like, hey, we don't need that anymore. We did add a few jobs this year. 61 operational safety funding from other source type projects were added. And then 43 projects were added through legislative designated and funded projects. There was so when I gave you the draft, it was around 3.1. Now we're at 3.049 billion on legislative designated. The big one, I-70, 2.8 billion. Great project, 100 million for rural routes. That's just been a great program to improve the condition of those roads. And then some others listed there, but notably the Railroad Crossing Safety Improvement Program at $50 million will be a great addition to our safety efforts in the state. Little snapshot too, this STIP has $1.74 billion invested in the rural parts of the state in both pavements and bridges. It's a great investment. And you can see that, typically the STIP doesn't invest in low volume roads, but there's a very substantial investment in there on the low volume system in this STIP. Your asset management deficit program and the rural route program together have combined to be about $350 million to improve pavements in areas of the state that had differing levels of service that we wanted to address to make sure that those things had the same feel and look as other parts of the state. Also within the STIP is the maintenance and operations budget. It covers what everybody doesn't really see that's in the STIP, but it's quite a substantial investment, annually pushing $1 billion on maintenance and operations. The St. Louis District's next 3-year work program for maintenance and operations. There's a ton of work that goes. This is really the kind of what keeps the system running. Very important stuff, and we want to make sure folks know that this is also what they invest in their limited resources we have. So multimodal, the final multimodal in the 24 to 28 STIP, $792 million is their program summary with $109 million from 8 legislatively designated and funded projects, including the Great Crossing Safety Program. Changes. So almost $14 billion and 53 sources gave us 72 comments. To me, that speaks to the breadth of our involvement in local communities around the state, how well we work with folks to try to address issues prior to programming a document or a STIP. Some states just say, here's our STIP, hope you like it. That's not how we do business in Missouri. This is tremendous. This is the lowest amount of comments I've ever seen on a STIP. Some of them, even, some of the comments are positive. Some of the comments were related to, hey, why don't you build I-44 instead of I-70? That's understandable what's local to them, but by and large, this is a great reflection, I believe, on the department's efforts to involve Missourians of what they need out of their system. We did have 15 major changes. These were projects that ultimately did not receive funding through the legislative process that we had included in the draft, but aren't there now. It touched every district on 15 different projects. There's the other part of that list. That's some minor changes. These always happen. We got to change charts. Those things that changed in between, they kind of ripple through the STIP. And my team puts together a lot of things that, we have to make sure we account for every little thing that it touches when you make those changes. So we did want to highlight that there were 18 minor changes to this STIP. So today I ask for your approval for the 24 to 28 STIP. Certify the planning process is carried out according to 23 CFR 45220. Delegate authority to the Deputy Director Chief Engineer to add scoping, hardship, right-of-way projects, and urgent emergency projects, and make fiscally constrained revisions to projects within the 24 to 28 STIP. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions or comments for Eric? Lauren?
Yeah, thanks, Eric, and congratulations. Historic.
Thank you.
Absolutely historic, largest ever by many magnitudes. 3 things I want to observe about the STIP. One, Missouri has an exemplary process for developing the STIP. The engagement with local communities, local elected officials, mayors, county executives, metropolitan and rural planning organizations is remarkable. It's something we should be proud of. It's something we should defend when people suggest we do it differently. And it's something that I am personally very proud of. Thanks for leading that effort. Second thing I want to observe is the importance of honesty. The director mentioned that inflation is chewing up a significant part of the STIP. And it's important that we're honest and transparent. And I encourage you to continue that because public needs to know that inflation has the unintended consequence of moving moving projects out, and we might as well be upfront about it, and we are, and that's a good thing. Third thing I want to observe is the importance of asset management. I'm pleased to see in the first 3 years of this STIP that we're moving up 3 percentage points in terms of asset management. Nothing's more important than maintaining and protecting and operating what you have. And I will continue to be an advocate for investing in asset maintenance and management, and I'm glad to see that. All in all, this is an incredible body of work. Congratulations to the many thousands of people involved in it, and congratulations to you.
Thank you. It is a record-setting step. It's really neat to be a part of it. And you're right. The plan framework, what we call of involvement of local Missourians, is really critical to its success. It is nationally recognized, and it is something that we should really protect.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Eric? I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the STIP. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Congratulations, Eric.
Thank you.
We have now come to the public comment period. Members of the public who did not schedule a presentation before the commission may speak to the commission on transportation-related issues by having signed in at the registration desk by 9:30 a.m. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per person, 10 minutes per topic. Madam Secretary, do we have anyone signed up for public comment? We have two. First is going to be Alderman Robert Hussey, Alderman of the City of Wentzville. Please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. First, I want to thank you guys for your service to the citizens of the state. I know it takes a lot of effort to sit on these types of boards. I also want to thank you guys on behalf of Wentzville and the state in regards to the 70 improvements. I'm going to take my alderman hat off for a minute and put my personal hat on as I own a real estate brokerage here on this side of the state and then also on the other side of the state. And I drive exactly from Wentzville to Blue Springs. And so I want to thank you personally for that. I'm here today to discuss the interchange at 4061, or also known as 64, depends on who you are and where you are, what you call it. But right where it intersects there with Interstate 70, this is going to be the start of this project. And I commute home every day, and I drive through that every day. And the railroad bridge is excellent that we got that done. But that, I would say that's only a third of the problem in that area. Within about a 20-second drive, you have the 4061 interchange, the Highway Z exit, and the railroad. And all three of those in the afternoon, and especially on a maybe 1 p.m. on a Friday, when it seems like all St. Louis is trying to get down to the lake, it causes significant congestion. So when you guys are looking at this, I would strongly encourage you to incorporate the 4061 interchange in that design to make that flow a little better. And with that said, I'm sure everybody's getting hungry for lunch, so I want to thank you for your consideration on that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, we have Kelvin Lashley from the Church of Christ, Wright City.
Oh, thank you for your time. Thank you, guys. And I work, just so a little about my background, I work construction for almost 30 years, worked for Code Grading for 25 years. I'm sure a lot of you all are familiar with them. So I know a little bit about construction. I'm representing United Church of Christ in Wright City because our church sits right at the top of the ramp at the 200-mile marker where the bridge narrows. You kind of got the same thing going on in Wentzville. Wentzville's a lot worse, but you got the left turn deal coming in underneath the narrow bridge. And we're curious of what's going to happen right there when you go to 3 lanes. I mean, we want to protect our church. We know there's got to be property. A lot of times y'all are really doing the interlocking walls that go straight up and down. You know, if you take the slope out, maybe you could fit it in there. I don't know with the interlocking walls. I don't know what you guys' designs are. Well, I was hoping to see something, but maybe in October, I guess. Maybe we'll see more of a picture, but maybe somebody can kind of let us know maybe what you're thinking there is the question of how you're going to straighten that out and make it underneath that bridge, or what's going to happen in that area at the 200-mile marker on I-70.
What I would suggest is Eric Kapinski is here, and we're going to be doing significant, one of the things, it's a good comment. One of the things we haven't done yet, but we need to do is significant public outreach on the entire corridor and all the impacts there. Now, we typically would have more advanced notice of an investment of this size, so it's come upon us quickly. But we know that that's an important part of it, and that is going to start in earnest. And this project isn't one continuous project. It's a series of them over the course of the next 7 years. So we understand that we have to do that public outreach, to work with community members, impacted property owners and otherwise. And that really begins now. So thank you for your comment. And I would suggest you trade contact information with Mr. Kapinski, and he'll get back with you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your comments, and this is the perfect place to bring those type of concerns forward for this project, so. At the end of each meeting, we like to give a chance for each commissioner to express comments or concerns. And today I'm going to start with Commissioner Brinkman.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I think this is our 70th meeting, you and I. Have you ever seen this many people at a meeting? How wonderful to see you all out here. Thanks. You know, there's just a lot to say, a lot of congratulations around here, Eric, for his appointment to the I-70. How fun is that going to be? It's going to be great for all your people. And Eric, or 2 Erics, $14 billion, $13 billion. None of us ever thought that would be possible. So congratulations to everybody for all their hard work around here. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Brinkman. Commissioner Boatright?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Exciting time. You know, I'll be brief just because we've all been in here a long time today, but historic investment, one that we are absolutely going to deliver. Some of the things that we've done with this STIP was very much needed to be fiscally conservative on our approach to delivering projects. Again, Eric Kapinski for I-70, very excited to have him in that role, and I know he's going to make everybody in this room very proud of him by the end of that. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I will turn it back over to you. I appreciate it. One thing I do want to say.
I knew you weren't that.
Well, you know, one thing I do want to say is that the group of folks up here, I just want to thank you for your efforts on this. And I know that to get to this point, it's taken a lot to do so, and really, really appreciate the work that's been done and appreciate the generosity of the folks that are here. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Boatright. Commissioner Erdman?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Great day. Just want to share with fellow Missourians, we are about to begin on a truly historic amount of work. Missouri has never seen this much work in such a compressed time, and we're doing it after several years of reduction in staff. And today, MoDOT staff is at a low compared to where it has been in the past. And we have people who are nearing retirement and young people who are moving up very quickly. And we're asking a lot. We are asking a lot of the staff, and I hope all my fellow Missourians can understand and appreciate how much we're asking of them. And they're delivering it extremely efficiently. So on behalf of all them, I just want to express the gratitude of all Missourians for the enormous efficiency you produce with the team you've assembled. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Erdman. Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just kind of wanted to echo what Warren just said. I agree. So many projects. I remember being here 7, 8 years ago when we were looking at a lot of problems, 325 million maybe, but where we're at today is exciting. It's because everyone in this room, everybody that supported MoDOT, supported the gas tax, just supported everything. But the legislature, Lincoln Huff, Governor Parson, they've just been tremendous, and I can't thank them enough. But it's great to see you, Jeff. It's great to be back in St. Louis and see so many familiar faces. And as Commissioner Brinkman said, it is great to see a big crowd here. So thank you, guys. Travel safe. Buckle up, phone down. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. I first of all just want to thank the St. Charles and I want to thank Tom Blair and his team for being exceptional hosts for this meeting and for the commission. I want to thank Commissioner Brinkman and his wife Kim for hosting us last night. That was really special. Thank you. Eric, congratulations to you on the I-70 project. That is really exciting. As has been said, thanks goes out to the governor and the state legislature and all the transportation advocates that made this become a reality. It is truly historic and it is exciting. In closing, our next meeting is scheduled for August 2nd in Chillicothe. And everyone be safe and buckle up and phone down.
Do you need a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
So moved.
Is there a second to adjourn? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. That's September. August is still.